Love that. All right, we're live on Facebook. Let's get this party started. I've got David Childers with me. He's the co-host. Dude, you're actually the host, man.
I don't know about that. No. I don't need
You've got all that great information, and he works with Keeping Current Matters. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. It's an invaluable piece of your business that's super inexpensive. And some of what he's going to show us today, you can totally go there, grab it, and say the exact same thing to your audience. So, David, thanks for being on, buddy.
Thank you. I enjoy these, starting off our weeks every other Monday, catching up. And, you know, like you said, our goal really at Keeping Current Matters is to give you the information so that you can be the knowledge broker in your community. You can bring the insights and information. That's what we're trying to do day in, day out. And the 26 people that support, do all the research, do all the great work to bring this information so that we can share it. And
dude, that's a lot of people.
It is. You know, I look back in 12 years and growing to 26 people now, it's amazing.
Is that how many people are doing the research, or who are the people?
So we have 5 separate teams. You know, we have our internal team, but our marketing team, our content team. We have 7 people on our writing and research team, member success team, on down the line. So all the folks that are in one way or another, either supporting a member or helping a member or showing more people what we do, makes up that 26, those 26 folks.
Dude, I love that. I love that, man. I'm sharing it into a few different groups right now.
Cool.
So,
and I would say one other thing is I was thinking about this because I'm going to talk about the first topic. I'm going to talk about something we shared on the KCM blog today. And if you're not following that, you can sign up for the KCM blog for free. It doesn't cost anything. Well, we'd love you to become a member. But if you go to kcmblog.com, you can get that blog in your email every morning, find out what's going on. And interesting topic today about economic recovery that we'll talk a little bit about. If you want to use that, after this call or at any time to share that with your clients.
I love that, dude. Yeah, that's definitely good. What I do before you get started is we get these messages from KCM by email. I open it up mornings. I grab the social media posts, or my operations manager does, and she sends it in a group messaging that we have to the rest of the team on what to post. So love that, dude. You've made it easy for us.
Absolutely. We're grateful for it. So thank you for that. And listen, all the great work that the research team does and the entire team at KCM doesn't get out there until folks are doing that. So.
I love it, dude. All right, show us all the good stuff, my friend.
So let's kind of hop in here. So I mentioned the KCM blog. We'll kind of start there. Today's post. So I've got a copy of literally the headline is Economic Recovery Beating All Projections. So let's talk about give you a couple of visuals out of that, maybe a few reminders. Now, if you've been following KCM, we've been talking about economic recovery. On the front end of this, we talked about the V-shaped recovery and and what that looked like, and even on the front end, what are experts saying? And that's what we want to bring you, or what are experts saying about this economy? And so, another quote that we referenced a couple of months ago was one that, if you remember this, that some of the worst economic data that we had seen is going to be followed by some of the best economic data that we'll see. And I think we're certainly seeing that now, Tristan. And I'll go back to a reminder here. We're wrapping up the third quarter, and we want to look at GDP, gross domestic product, as a measure of economic activity. And this is what forecasters are saying about GDP here in the third quarter. The original 5 that we looked at, if you remember that slide with the V on it, we said it's going to go down and come back up.
Yep, I remember
forecasting, and then we added 4 more in there. We've got a total of 9 that we're looking here, economic forecasts. 5 of those say it's going to be between 20 and 25%, call it. And so certainly more, recovery with the economy is what we want to see, but great, recovery forecast for the third quarter.
Dude, this is much better than what we were looking at a few months back when it was kind of split, right?
Yeah, I'll show you. I'm going to bring you an update on that. But I think there were kind of folks going, hey, is it going to happen now? It's going to be out. We started talking about the V, the U, the L, the W, all those things. I'll bring you an update on that as well. But the Wall Street Journal came out and said this. The U.S. economy and labor market are recovering from the coronavirus-related downturn more quickly than previously expected, economists said in a monthly survey. So we talked about this, how we started out this year very, very good. Certainly in our business, January and February, two of the best years in the last 10, two of the best months in the last 10 years. We've seen that after we got through quarantine, the housing market coming back, but I think we're seeing as well the overall economy coming back. There's a lot of data to support that. They go on to say business and academic economists polled by the Wall Street Journal expect gross domestic product to increase at an annualized rate of 23.9% in the third quarter. That's a forecast. And that is up sharply from an expectation of 18.3% growth rate in the previous survey. So again, their upward projection was started out at 18.3, and they're saying no, we're looking at close to 24% growth across the economy. So good things to see there, and we want to see everybody get jobs back, business be able to do what they do best as the economy recovers. And here's what you were referencing right here.
There you go.
What are economists saying about recovery? And we see that 83.3 say it's going to be some form of a V, where we dip down during the quarantine time, and as businesses have been able to reopen, we're coming back up. And the large majority of those saying this Nike swoosh shape, 15 or so percent saying this traditional V, but some form of a V, just depending on the angle of the curve coming out, is really what we're talking about.
Is it kind of like a lazy V, dude? Can we call it a lazy V?
You could do that. I mean, the interesting thing, economically speaking, is a Nike swoosh was not an economic term prior to this. Let's maybe start there. And so I think you're seeing economists just say, okay, how do we make sense of this? And it's a degree to how quickly we recover.
Hold on, I got to interrupt you because Eric just joined on the panelist side, and he always says Boston, and I just wanted to say he's from Boston. Okay, what's up, Eric?
That is good.
We got Jessica Morrison too. What's up? And everybody, if you just want to say hello, well, just let us know what city and state you're from in between. David, you know what's interesting? When I'm reading articles now, there was one article I read yesterday about how the economy is now creating a bigger difference between those of wealth and those minorities, right? Like me, Mexican descent, blacks, right? Those, us, right?
Right.
And it's really going to affect our people a little bit more. And I was reading it, and here's the point that I wanted to make. As I'm reading these articles, the thing I'm reading is they're saying the economy recovery is being led by real estate. Like every single article that I read. And it's so nice to see that that's just reaffirming what we already, you and I believe, and we're seeing.
Sure.
But that helps. In the eyes of the consumer, in the media, everybody's in unison saying, yeah, we're leading the recovery. That's really important psychologically. So I wanted to add that to it.
Yeah, I think it's, we talked about this over the last several months. The economic impact that we can have as a business is tremendous. I've talked a lot about it, the research that we've done that, $88,000 is added to a local economy and the national economy on the sale of a new home through commissions, through the materials, through ancillary businesses, about half of that for a existing home sale. But no doubt, going back to your point, that in this, and we've reported on some of this at KCM, this being a service sector led downturn has affected those on the lower, not only income earning scale, but age bracket, but also minority communities being impacted by this.
Yeah.
And, I think that, that idea, and this is where I think, I'd love to even see in the chat, what are you seeing where you're at, is what is our job through this? How do we serve communities through this that, or maybe thinking about buying a home or need information or education about how to navigate this market.
Yeah, I think that's good. Well, that's why this information right here is so important too,
Mm-hmm.
because we can, even if you're just watching now, you could just snapshot these graphs that David's showing you and use them for later purposes. But just to be able to give that information to our clients is important, man.
Yeah.
So what else you got for us, buddy?
So we'll continue on down this down the road, because I think ultimately what we want to talk about here is what we just said, is the consumer. Okay, so this is a map that we developed from an Opportunity Insights report showing the change in consumer spending as of January 1st. You see most of the country there is in this brownish color, which means consumer spending is anywhere between 0 and negative 10% where it was the 1st of January. So that's good to see that coming back and closely, even, if you will, closer to even relative to January 1st. You see California, where you're at, Tristan, down, a little over 12%. And so that's one thing that we want to keep an eye on. And to give context to this map, this is what the year has looked like relative to consumer spending.
Ooh, I like this graph, dude.
Yeah, if we started out January 1st and we were even, we know in April we dipped down 31.7%. Then as a nation, we've clawed our way back, and, steep returns in May, June, then into July, and kind of 7% there the last couple of months. Now, we don't have the most recent data here for September, but to say as a country that, as we've gone through this, to be back 7% below, I'm going to take as, that's a win. We want to see it get back to where it was, but consumer spending is coming back relative to.
Does it show, David, who that consumer is, or no?
That's just a wide open swath of consumer spending. It's not broken down in this graph, particularly by a particular demographic or who that is.
Jessica says, just wondering how much of this is Amazon.
Sure.
That's a good point, Jessica.
A fair amount of it. Yeah, right. I mean, it's a good point.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, that's where I'm purchasing most of my items. So it's a really good point. But that's where the transition is happening too, right? I mean, look, that's where the whole world is shifting to, which there's going to be a section of where our economy is going to dip and continue to dip as the rest of the world and the United States adapts to this whole new economy that we're getting into. And that happens every time, dude.
I think you're going to see new businesses, new things like that sprung up, and no doubt there were things that, we maybe used as, it's going to vary from individual and family to family, but we used to order a few things from Amazon, or kind of growing each year to where now we're like everything,
Yeah, honestly, dude. Yeah, that's so true.
I think we're going to see more of that, because the question is when do we get back to normal, whatever that is, I've got a graph here I want to share with you, or it's a map that CNN and Moody's have developed a back to normal index based on a lot of factors, spending, different things, relative to the economy. If you're a KCM member, you grab our stuff, we always include the link in the notes of the slide, but you see the overwhelming majority of the country is between 80 and 89% back to normal. Okay. Parts of the country in the brown are 70, 79%. So things tracking back to where they were. Obviously, we want to see that happen, various local areas that are hotspots for coronavirus, or are, segments of the economy that are driven by heavier hit areas. I think Las Vegas or Orlando, or, entertainment. You look down at Hawaii on this map. Very, very heavily impacted with the reduction in travel and vacations, things like that.
It's hard to get there, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to see. You look at Georgia and Florida. I would have thought they would also be orange, with them being hit so heavily. But I think then that's where we get into politics, right? who's running the state, right? How tight are these laws that are still in effect? So that's very interesting to see. I love this.
Yeah.
This is a really good map.
Yeah, as long as they start to provide it, we're gonna keep this updated. So as long as I can get the data, I'll bring it to these calls, and we'll start to track this and say, okay, look, where are we at relative to that? Because it comes down to this. I mean, we were talking, just a couple months ago, Tristan, about unemployment. We talked about it, 2 weeks ago. But I want to bring some perspective to unemployment and how it was compared to the Great Depression or Great Recession just a couple months ago. And this is the number of months unemployment's greater than or equal to 9% in the Great Depression, Great Recession, the 80s, and today. And it sticks out here. The Great Depression, 108 months greater than or equal to 9%. Today, we've seen 4 months of that. Great Recession, 30 months. Today, we've seen 4. Oil recession in the 80s, 19 months, we've seen 4. So it really starts to put this into perspective. I don't want to suggest that this is sensitive information. If you're impacted by it, your family's impacted by it. That's critically important. But I want to bring, perspective to the bigger picture of where we stand relative to unemployment, recovery, and and things across the country.
That's a really good point that you bring up, man. I think what the previous map that showed the percentages of back to normal.
Right.
I think the more these other states finally get used to this being the normal, right? Then you'll finally see it grow into the 80s and 90s, because in some places, dude, masks are going to stay for a long time.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And that's just the way business is going to be. So I think the adaptation of the world being different is also having to do with how fast things are adapting.
Yeah, I think that, there's always that word, normal, is the old saying that normal is only a setting on the washing machine. But, I think we've
Where'd you hear that, dude? That's so good. Where did you hear that?
Just always heard it. I don't know.
So good.
But I think today you start to talk about normal, and some people are like, well, it's never going to go back to normal. I mean, there's some elements of life that probably some things we should be doing, relative to our health and things like that. Now, I want to bring in something. We've talked about the overall economy. I have 2 other slides here that I think will give some good information for our business that I want to park on for a minute. And I'm really interested in your take on these, Tristan. I love showing these up here and getting your perspective. And even folks that want to, make comments in the chat.
Yeah, chime in.
About what you're seeing and how you're feeling about things where you're at. This slide here is the recently released Fannie Mae Home Purchase Sentiment Index. So they go out to respondents and they say, do you think it's a good time to buy? Do you think it's a good time to sell? Now, interestingly, I've got my cursor here. Let's start here with good time to buy. Dark blue here, went down in quarantine, comes up, goes down. So largely remained in the same, I'm going to call that area, okay? I'm going to call that good time to buy as a recovered relative to our business. Would it be a little bit higher right now if we wouldn't have gone through that? Maybe, but it's right there. The interesting one is good time to sell fell off the map during quarantine, and in my opinion, has not yet come back. Relative to the survey and what consumers think.
Dude, this is beautiful, man.
Yeah, so let's kind of talk this through for a second. We've seen a lot of activity over the last several months. Remember, we said on the front end of this, there's going to be so much business for folks that are in the market when we get through this or get through the lockdown that you're not going to be able to handle it. And we've seen that manifest across the country. Now we've seen that, I would say, with, I'm going to call it in this case, half of the people saying it's a good time to sell, not even seeing that come back and recover relative to this survey. And I think folks probably in this case fit into a couple of situations. The first one is we can't sell our home because we don't know where to go. So that's one thing we know is a known in the industry. And I'd love to hear how people are overcoming that objection and what they're doing to deal with that. But I think there's a second piece that I would offer in the vein of what we talked about is as we go forward into next year, I believe we will see, now timing is the question here, good information come out relative to the health crisis, whatever that may be. That's going to be medications, it's going to be vaccines, it's going to be, I don't have a crystal ball, I can't say what that is, but we will start to get, better information. As we get that, more and more people will say, I feel comfortable selling my home. A lot of people right now probably going, you know what, I don't want to invite a bunch of people into my house. I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't want to do that. Or maybe our job is to show them how we are doing that safely.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as we see information coming out going into next year, we can expect that to come back up and people be more confident that it is a good time to sell their home.
Well, I think that's key, because at the very beginning of this, when you said the swoosh wasn't a technical term, man, I'm going to stick with the lazy V, but the seller, that seller section is very, very indicative of that exactly. That recovery of the seller's optimism to sell looks like a big time lazy V. Like it's going to gradually get to and then supersede the buyer's expectations. And then that's when the market starts shifting. But the thing is, it's really going to depend on when we come out with a vaccine, I think. So it's kind of like up and down. How far out does this lazy V go, right? Or the swoosh?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to depend upon, to your point, good news, whatever that is. Is it a vaccine? Is it, therapy? Whatever people go, okay, I feel safer now. I think by and large, it's probably a vaccine. But as that comes, I think there's reason for optimism about those consumers coming back into the market and looking at it going, we've seen a lot of activity this year, and that's the reality of the sentiment of many folks in our business, many consumers relative to selling a home.
Yeah, and if anyone has any questions, just throw them on to the chat box on the webinar side, absolutely, or on the Facebook side, and then we'll address them.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear what you're hearing, out there, and folks that are talking to people and they're saying, hey, I don't have anywhere to go, or I don't feel safe, or what are people saying relative to that? So I can't see what all Linda's saying there.
Yeah, I got a couple of things here. Rick's here. He says, Rick Trevino, what's up, Rick? Love the graph. Makes sense that sellers are apprehensive about letting people into their home. As time passes, sellers are gaining confidence. It's very, very true. Good statement, Rick. Linda Martin, what's up, Linda? She says, I'm seeing some hesitation in selling due to the concern of finding a replacement property. Yeah. That's true. Those looking to move out of state are far more confident. Plus, there's still some concerns for COVID. Yeah, that's all. You hit that right on. That's so true. It's really hard to find a replacement property locally. Mm-hmm. But once people are moving out to states like we're getting a lot of people moving to Tennessee, to different parts of Texas, to parts of the East Coast. So yeah, dude, definitely seen that. Good comment there, Rick and Linda. Lori says, Lori Joe from Boston. I love Boston, man. Lori, I love Boston. So I think the seller side supply will increase just as you predict. Hooray for the buyers. Can't wait. My crystal ball says by March next year, we have a more healthy market and more healthy us as well, hopefully. Yeah. I agree. Yep.
Yeah, I can't remember if I mentioned this last time a couple of weeks ago, and you can go back on the KCM blog and go search this if you're interested. In January of this year, we wrote an article that said, the spring market is here. Are you ready? In January. And what we have is data for the last 5 years to show that consumers are in the market earlier looking for a home. They're not waiting till the spring. So the question I would have to sellers right now is, using this graph, do you want to sell now with that being the case, or you want to wait till everybody comes back?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question, and I get that there's concern about that, but from a pure supply and demand side, you always want to sell when there are fewer of that product on the market.
That's true. And that's across most of the country. Yeah, there's going to be pockets here and there.
Sure.
So that's just what we're seeing everywhere. And I think that graph, can you put that graph up one more time? Because I'd like people to take a picture of it if they're not going to visit the blog. Because
absolutely. Let me,
it's such a great graph to start a conversation with, or just send it out in a newsletter.
Yeah.
Just to explain the backstory behind this, right?
Yep.
And the fact that it's coming up from Fannie Mae too, dude, I really love this one. So take a picture of this, take a snapshot, just show how the sellers are not as motivated as the buyers, obviously. So that's just indicative of, for the most part of the country, there being less homes available for more buyers, which is going to continue to push the prices and continue to push those multiple offers in most places. So that's why I love this graph, dude. And check out the lazy V or the swoosh, whatever you want to call it. See that sharp down and then
call that the saxophone.
Dude, that's it. It's the Kenny G graph. How do you like that? It's totally a saxophone. That's so good. Can we have Kenny G? Somebody draw Kenny G in the far left.
Yeah, tag Kenny G on it.
Saxophone. Yeah. All right, dude. What else you got for us?
Let me show you one other slide as we wrap. I know we try to keep these into, give you the best information in half an hour. This is an interesting calculation that our team did. Difference in monthly payment right now. If we go back 1 year ago today, and we use $250,000 as the finance amount. So 1 year ago, the average 30-year fixed, according to Freddie Mac, 3.73%, $250,000 financed is $1,154 in the principal and interest. Today, that number would grow. Okay, we're going to acknowledge that 5.5% increase according to CoreLogic. That number becomes $263,750. Today's interest rate, 2.87, the average on a 30-year fixed right now. That monthly principal and interest payment, $1,093. You save $61. Here's the message. Oh. The price is going up, but the cost is going down. We've got to be able to communicate that effectively in the market. People are like, do I want to buy right now? We're looking at the price in a lot of cases when we got to look at the carrying cost. And this is something that is a very interesting situation we find ourselves in the market. I certainly wouldn't have said last year at 3.73% that we'd be sitting in an environment like we are now, in much better situation where homes would have appreciated 5.5% in the last 12 months, and due to interest rate savings, you'd have a better deal today. Big point right now relative to where we stand. In affordability. We talked about affordability 2 weeks ago. This is the driver of affordability right now.
Yeah, and Jared, just to go to your point, there are two different mortgage amounts just to show that last year the prices were lower. Today they're a little higher, and you still end up saving money because the interest rates are dramatically lower. So that's the graph that you're trying to show there.
There's appreciation built into that. So we can't just look at apples to apples, because somebody would say, well, homes more expensive today, and they are. And so what we've tried to do is balance that out through that calculation.
All right, dude. One last question for you before we go, only because we kind of brought this up 2 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. I don't remember.
I could see mass foreclosure in the question.
Yeah. Wendy says, although I don't believe mass foreclosures are coming, some of my buyers are waiting for that scenario. How would you advise them?
Oh, man. How much time do we have?
You've got 30 seconds. Go. I'm joking. Go.
I would go back to the KCM blog or to Keeping Current Matters, and I would search why it's not 2008 all over again. That's the first thing I would do. Second thing is search on that blog as well. Why will we will not see a flood of foreclosures in the market this fall? The simple answer is the significant amount of equity across the country in homes today is very different from 2008. We're in an undersupply scenario, and people have options. Now, are homes going to go into foreclosure? They are, but not at the rate of anywhere near what we saw in 2008. The quote that I used, I believe 2 weeks ago, Tristan, was, it will form a trickle rather than a flood, is what one expert said.
Then that's a really good quote. And I'm showing on my screen, if you can see here, from KCM.
Are you sharing? I may not be able to see that, but share.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
There you go. Mm-hmm. So this is what you were referring to, which is 42% of all homes are owned free and clear.
Correct.
And the average equity is 177,000. This is a really important graphic design, whatever you want to call it. This one you should be sharing often. It should be inside of your listing presentation, buyer presentation, should be everywhere. This one is super powerful.
Yep.
See if we missed anything else. We are good, buddy. I can't wait to meet next time. Everybody jump on keepingcurrentmatters.com. You can always grab the latest information there to use it with your clients, your friends, your family. I send this to my mom. So I'm like, hey, mom, check this out.
That is great. That is great.
You know, send it out everywhere, David. Thanks for being with us again, buddy.
I saw a question if these will be sent out. Tristan, I'll give you a link to it. You can get them to where folks can grab them. We want you to have these so you can use them in presentations, things that you're doing like that. And know from our perspective, we are grateful for everybody at LabCoat Agents and grateful for the way you guys support what we do. So thank you for that.
Thanks, man. Send it over. I'll send it to everyone that watched and registered, and they'll have it there as well.
Sounds good. Have a great day. Take care.
Dude, have an awesome week, bro.
Sounds good. You as well. See you guys.